Attack on Titan has been a staple in anime for more than a decade, but its long-lasting impact across all of media will be remembered for years to come. For myself, it is one of the greatest stories ever written in all of fiction, and I'm excited for the series to finally come to an end. With the final part of the series less than a month away, I'm going to cover everything you need to know before Attack on Titan Season 4 Part 3. Wow, that was a mouthful. This is only going to cover what we've seen in the anime so far, and just as a heads up, the final portion is going to release in 2 parts. I know, there's more waiting. I will not be covering any material from the manga because I'm illiterate, so sorry to all the manga readers out there. And now I'm going to let everyone know, from here on out there will be spoilers for the anime if you have not caught up to it yet. This video is going to be a long one, so grab your popcorn, sit back, and enjoy this massive recap of Season 4. Remember, there's 2 sides to every story. At the beginning of the season, we are introduced to a new set of characters. Gabi, Falco, Sophia, and Udo, who are all candidates for the Armored and Beast Titan. We also meet General Magath, one of Marley's military leaders. They're currently in the middle of a war over their homeland Marley. This is because they lost the female Titan and Colossal Titans when they were last on Paradise. Other countries around the world saw this as an opportunity to try and overthrow Marley for being so weak. In the end, Marley wins the war. We are also introduced to Colt, the frontrunner to inherit the Beast Titan, Galliard, the new Jaw Titan, which means that Ymir is now dead, and now we also know the identity of the Cart Titan, Peak. At this point, we're given a lot of backstory on Reiner and the rest of the warriors when they initially touched down on Paradise, including losing Marcel, the Jaw Titan before Ymir. During these flashbacks, Reiner is going through it, almost shooting himself in the head, but is stopped because he realizes he still has friends on Marley. We see that Falco has become close with an injured war veteran, who we find out is Eren. Yes, he's on the island. Eren is able to send a letter back to his family using Falco, who we assume is everyone back on the island. We are introduced to Willie Tybur as well, who has been called to Marley to give a speech announcing that his family, who owns the Warhammer Titan, will be working with Zeke and the warriors to unleash an attack on Paradise and taking back the Attack Titan. As Willie is giving his speech in front of Marleyan military leaders and a whole bunch of other nobles, Falco leads Reiner underneath the stage to meet Eren. Their first meeting in 4 years. Eren interrogates Reiner about their invasion on Paradise years ago, and then he transforms, wreaking havoc among everyone that has attended the speech. Ripped to the goat. Amidst all of this, Eren takes on the Warhammer Titan by himself, with the scouts eventually coming to the rescue. Not without committing an Attack on Titan sin. Eventually, Eren is able to take down the Warhammer and drink its spinal fluid, capture Zeke, and successfully escape Marley. Not without a major casualty, of course. Rip to Potato Girl Sasha. We are then introduced to Yelena, a die-hard follower of Zeke, who is considered an anti-Marleyan that is willing to do anything to help fulfill and watch Zeke's ultimate plan unfold. We also meet Onyankopon, who is another anti-Marleyan Zeke supporter, helping Yelena reach her overarching goal. We are then made aware of Zeke's true plan, to meet with Eren and start the rumbling, which can only be started by a royal blood titan and the founder to come in contact. Zeke believes this plan is the only way to protect Eldians, but more on that later. We also get introduced to Niccolo, who is a Marleyan chef. He invites Sasha's dad and the rest of the family to have his cooking while he is visiting Sasha's grave, to which the latter agrees. Armin throughout the episode is talking to Annie, who is still in her crystal, commentating over what has happened over the past 4 years and his thoughts on what's currently happening. After the invasion of Marley, Eren, including Gabi and Falco, are put in jail and supervised by the scouts, now led by Hanji, and is interrogated by her. She asks him why he's talking to himself, because he keeps saying, We then see the Asian woman, Kiyomi Azumabito, visiting Paradise in a flashback, informing Mikasa about her Azumabito bloodline and that she is the next heir to inherit the Hizuru clan name. Part of Zeke's plan is to transfer his powers to someone of royal blood in order to prevent the rumbling from hurting the people of Paradise. Historia insists that she inherits Zeke's powers in order to protect her people, but Eren thinks otherwise. He wants the generational suffering to end, and he's willing to do it all himself. Hanji is then threatened by Eren because it seems that she and the scouts have something up their sleeve to use against him if he retaliates again. We also find out Historia is pregnant. The main scouts argue if Eren is truly on their side or not. After their last fight, Reiner seems to be in a coma after all the damage, but he finally wakes up days later. Meanwhile, Gabby and Falco escape their jail cell, with Gabby killing the officer with a brick. The two are now on the run, being considered criminals. They find themselves in the forest, eventually running into Sasha's sister Kaya, and Kaya takes them to her home in the woods. A lot of civilians and taxpayers desperately want to know what the scouts are going to do with Eren. Some of the scout recruits, including Flock, told the public about Eren being imprisoned. They want him to be free, but Hanji says that jailing him is for the sake of the Eldians. Hanji seems to be fully buying into Zeke's plan, but struggling because she's not sure if this is truly the right thing to do. Meanwhile, she's confining some scout recruits because they wanted Eren to be freed. Mikasa goes through some PTSD, which includes some flashbacks from when Eren first saved her. Sasha's younger sister takes Gabby and Falco through her old village after it was raided by the Titans. Kaya questions why her mom had to die during the invasion 4 years ago, and Falco says she was caught in the crossfire. Amidst all of this, Kaya admits that she wants to grow up like Sasha. Yelena and Pixis have a deep conversation, which includes when Eren and Yelena secretly met up to talk about possibly invading Marley. There's a sense of urgency here because the rest of the world's military forces definitely overpowers Paradise's current. Yelena then says someone needed to light a fire under the administration, which essentially means she manipulated Eren through Zeke's word. Premier Zachary, who's the commander-in-chief of all the regiments, the scouts, the military police, and the garrison, died due to a bomb planted in a chair that was brought to his office. After all this goes down, we find out that Eren started a cult, labeled as the Jaegerists. This group was responsible for killing the premier. Kiyomi is exposed for being greedy for Paradise's resources and wanting Mikasa to leave the island. Pixis admits he wants to surrender to Eren because he doesn't want the infighting to happen, even though it's already begun. And while this is all happening, we find out that Peak is on the island. Holy fuck! Zeke is brought to the forest with Levi and a group of scouts. He admits to how he turned everyone in Connie's village to Titans, using his spinal fluid which was embedded in gas. Niccolo gets into a small scuffle with Jean because he doesn't want them consuming the wine, which is kind of sus. Cue the lunch where Sasha's family is invited. This includes Gabby and Falco since they were taken into the household. During lunch, Gabby and Falco step away from the meal to escape. They try to tell Niccolo to warn other Marleyans about the potential invasion from Marley, assuming he's on their side. Gabby admits to telling Niccolo that she killed Sasha, which enrages him. He attempts to smash a bottle of wine over her head, but it hits Falco instead and the wine gets into his mouth. He then brings the kids into the dining room and tells Sasha's family that Gabby was the one that ended up killing Sasha. He threatens to kill her, but the scouts arrive on time to stop it. Niccolo says that the wine has Zeke's spinal fluid and that Falco has consumed some. He also mentions that the highest officers in the military were ordered to be given the wine by Yelena. The Jaegerists already know about this plan. Gabby is taken to a separate room by Mikasa and Armin, who are met by Eren with a cut on his hand saying, "We need to talk." Eren says that Hanji and the others are being taken somewhere else. During this conversation, he points out the flaws in Armin, saying that Bertolt is part of him now. For Mikasa, he says that all she does is protect Eren, and that he hates people that aren't free. Eren triggered her fighting instincts back then when she was kidnapped and hidden in the cabin. He also mentions the headaches that the Ackermans get when they awaken their powers, which is what Mikasa experienced earlier in the season. Eren beats up Armin because he wants to know where Zeke is. When Armin asks where they're going, he says he's bringing them back to Shiganshina, where it all began. Zeke turns all the scouts in the forest into titans after they consume the wine, pitting them against Levi. Everyone in the walls that drank the wine as well felt a zap of electricity in their bodies, including Falco. Levi proceeds to beat Zeke's ass yet again, looking in the worst shape after the battle. Flock brings Hanji to see the 109th Cadet Corps, and he announces that he is going to be fighting with Eren for freedom, recruiting some of the new cadets to deflect against the scouts and follow the Jaegerists. Zeke is tied in the back of a wagon watched over by Levi, slowly regenerating, and he begins to remember his past. He was raised in Liberio by Grisha and Dinah. Grisha and Dinah are part of the Eldian Restorationists, a group that is deflecting from Marley. Zeke's grandparents are teaching him about the true history of the Titans, including the invasion of Lago. But Grisha is teaching Zeke a false history of the Titans, saying that the Lago invasion never happened. But Grisha ultimately wants Zeke to become a restorationist and fight for Eldia. During this flashback, we are also introduced to Tom Cassava, the previous owner of the Beast Titan, who does Titan research. While Zeke is training to become a warrior, Grisha comes to spectate over him one day, and he notices that Zeke is horrible at his training. This makes Zeke upset, and he feels heavily pressured to do his best to become the next candidate for the Beast Titan. This signifies the downfall of Grisha and Zeke's relationship. After training one day, Zeke overhears some Marley military personnel talking about their leads on the Eldian Restorationist group. This scares Zeke because his parents are part of the group, and he tells them to stop doing dangerous things. This indicates that Zeke is caring of their safety, and he doesn't want them to turn into titans. Cassava is the one that suggested to Zeke that he should out his parents as restorationists. Doing this would save Zeke and his grandparents from being turned into titans. Cassava also pressures Zeke by saying that his parents never loved him, and they were terrible parents to Zeke. Through his research, Cassava finds out that the founding titan can change the anatomy of titan shifters. This is how Eldians overcame a pandemic years ago with the help of King Fritz. Cassava also had a wife and a child, but he hid his warrior identity from his wife. Once she found out that he was Eldian, she killed her son and then herself. Eventually, the two became very close, and Cassava saw Zeke as his new son. From this, Zeke found his life's mission to inherit the Beast Titan and recover the founder to save the world. We then see Zeke and Eren having a conversation in Liberio. Eren says that his dad was wrong for killing the royal family back then, and he also admits that he was wrong too. Because Grisha took the founder from the royal family, it allowed for Eren to be born. Otherwise, he would have died within the cavern. Eren says he's going to put an end to 2,000 years of Titan domination with Zeke's help. But Zeke says the only way to save the world is through Eldia's euthanization. And now we are back in the present, and Zeke decides to pull the trigger on the Titan spear stuck to his body, taking Levi with him. Zeke's body is blown in half, but a Titan consumes him. And at this point, we don't know what's happened to Levi. Pixis is standing down from Yelena and the Jaegerists in Shiganshina, while everyone is being labeled with armbands. If you're wearing white, you're a Jaegerist. If you're wearing red, you drank the wine and you were forced to comply with Yelena. If you're wearing black, you drank the wine but you don't know a thing about what's happening. The rumbling is going to be used as a means to scare the otherworldly nations and try to prevent them from attacking Paradise. Then, the main scouts and Niccolo are put in a jail cell by the Jaegerists. They all talk amongst each other and question Eren's motives again. Johnny seems to be losing his trust in Eren, but Jean thinks that Eren is doing this while having a plan on the side. This refers to the flashback when they were riding in the train cart. Peek tries to save Gabby after she is put in a separate room, but Eren beats Peek to the room and he tries to negotiate with Gabby. Eren proposes to Gabby if she wants to save Falco that she help him. Peek walks in and threatens to kill Eren if he doesn't put his hands up, but Eren knows what Peek's up to. She wouldn't kill him. Peek admits that her Titan term is almost up and she wants to save her dad before she dies. She decides to team up with Eren. She sniffs out his plan and she wants to help him follow through with it. To prove her loyalty to him, she swears that she'll tell him where her comrades are hiding, and they both agree to it. We also find more about Zeke's euthanization plan, which is to stop children from being born. The suffering that the Titans have to go through will gradually disappear. Pieck confessed that ever since she met Zeke, she feels like he's been lying constantly to her, and maybe to others too. Atop the headquarters in Shiganshina, when Pieck tries to point her comrades out, she points to Eren instead. By doing this, she says that she would never side with Eren. And with that ends part 1. Let's dive right into part 2 of season 4. We finally find out about Levi. He looks like he's dead, but after rewatching the episode, Hanji seemed to be covering up that Levi is quote-unquote dead to Flock, and the two of them escape via the river. Zeke comes out of the Titan's body, being regenerated, telling Flock that he was put back together by a girl in another world, which might be referring to Ymir. Yelena is pleading to Eren to stop the fighting, but he refuses, saying he will continue to fight by himself. The warriors return to Paradise by airship, and they reconvene with Gabi, Falco, and the others. Gabi tells General Magath that Eren and Zeke plan to use the rumbling, and the fighting begins, with many scouts dying to Marleyans. Onyankopon is trying to ask for the main scout's help because he doesn't want to lose Eren and the Founding Titan. Reiner and Eren duke it out again, but this time Eren is the strongest he's ever been. During all of this, Galliard is helping Reiner, so it's a 2-on-1. Eren is backed into a corner after taking heavy damage from this fight, being shot in the head twice by anti-Titan weaponry and is stabbed by a Warhammer Titan spear. After going back and forth, the scouts ultimately decide to help Eren. While leaving the prison, Mikasa and Armin have a very important conversation. It revisits the end of season 3, with Eren asking if everyone in Paradise will be free if he kills their enemies across the ocean. Eren clutches up in the fight and manages to come back against the Jaw and Armored Titans. And then, Zeke shows up to the fight. Cue the infamous Yelena stare. Falco is released from the infected group by the scouts, along with all the other imprisoned military police. Kaya says she wishes she could have killed Gabi. Gabi finally comes to her senses and understands Reiner after all that's happened to her. The cycle of hatred and killing continues. Everyone, no matter what, has feelings and are human. Falco admits he's in love with Gabi. General Magath shoots Zeke from on top of the wall via a 2000 IQ play from Pieck. The fight reaches its climax now, with Eren beating Galliard to a pulp. Eren also is shot at by General Magath, while the Jaegerists try to stop Pieck. After falling from the top of the wall, Zeke eventually regains his consciousness. Reiner touches Galliard and there's a flashback. Reiner was never supposed to be a warrior. The former Jaw Titan, Marcel, wanted to protect Porco, so he did it himself. Zeke is about to scream to turn everyone that consumed the wine into Titans. But right before this, Colt tries to stop Zeke, saying that Falco is going to be a victim, but Zeke doesn't give a fuck. After the scream, the war's favor is slightly tipped in favor of the Eldians. Porco sacrifices himself so Falco won't eat Reiner and take his Titan. He always thought that he was better than Reiner. And now Falco becomes the new Jaw Titan. Reiner punches Eren out of anger, but Eren uses this as a distraction to harden and break out of Titan form to start running towards Zeke. As Eren runs towards Zeke, Gabby grabs a sniper and shoots Eren's head off. Zeke manages to catch his head, triggering the start of the rumbling. The baseball scene is highlighted here. Does this mean that Eren will end up backstabbing Zeke? If he caught it, would that mean that they trust each other? Now we're teleported to the paths where Ymir exists. Only Zeke, Eren, and Ymir are present. The only people that can enter the coordinate are those that use the Founding Titan's power, those with royal blood that is. It is explained that whenever Ymir uses her powers, she loses age. Zeke asks Eren to euthanize all Eldians until the end of time, but Eren refuses. He was putting on a show the whole time, playing along with Zeke to get to where they are right now. This continues the cycle of Eldian suffering. Eren extends his arm to Ymir and requests to share her power with him, but she walks past him instead. The founder can make anything, but is a slave with no will of her own. She believes those with royal blood are her masters and obeys them. This means that Zeke can order her to do what he wants. Eren was only the key to unlocking the power within Zeke. Zeke vows to save the world with Eren, and both of their foreheads touch. The power is unlocked. Alright guys, this section is going to probably take the longest to explain because it is very complicated. So keep in mind, I'm going to try my best and keep this as clear and concise as possible. After the two brothers touch foreheads, they dive into the memories of Grisha. Zeke's main objective by bringing Eren here is to show Eren how their dad brainwashed him, and why Eren's main goal is flawed. The pair travels between significant events in Grisha's memory. In the second memory, Zeke narrates over Grisha talking to a higher power, saying that Grisha is doing this to hunt down the king. This will help Grisha find and eventually kill the Founding Titan to steal its power. This concept has been a known thing since Season 2. Grisha kept the secret from everyone, but if someone found out about it, Carla and Eren would also be punished. Grisha kept going, carrying Eren's motto of continuing forward. Eren then confesses that he was wrong about his dad, saying, "I get it now. I never should have been born. I'm no longer brainwashed." This is potentially used as bait to make a shock factor to lure Zeke into believing that Eren is really on his side. Grisha discovers the king's hideout very early on. Eren is really young at this time, about 2 to 3 years old. He decides against killing the king, making me think that it was too early in his mind. Now we get into the basement scene. Grisha is sleeping while writing in his notebook. He wakes up saying, "I'm sorry, Zeke," and it seems he's looking right at Zeke. After this happens, both Zeke and Eren are shocked and confused at what just happened. I'm sure a lot of viewers were confused at this part too, because I definitely was. Grisha instantly denies that the man he sees is Zeke, but Eren rushes Zeke, saying that they should go to the next memory. We fast forward about 6 to 7 years later when Eren is 9 years old. He's friends with Armin at this point. Zeke and Eren have a small exchange, with Zeke asking why Eren hasn't been brainwashed yet. Your father told you nothing and made you inherit a Titan, yet you're still fighting just like you wanted? The Attack Titan fights for freedom. This is ingrained in all the past Attack Titans. Now we have to take a step back into Season 3's ending for a second here. When the scouts see the ocean for the first time, Eren wasn't particularly excited about it, unlike everyone else. He points toward the ocean and says, "If we kill all our enemies on the other side, will we finally be free then?" He's not happy here because he saw Grisha's memories. The memories are not happy. It's only pain on the other side of the ocean. In the next memory, Zeke says that he has the power of the Founder in his hand and can use it at any time. But first, he wants to save Eren before doing this. Grisha's last notes in his journal are, "Humanity has not perished." I think that we also need to look at the picture in Grisha's journal because it has some significance here. It might be an homage to always keep Zeke in his mind. Is he holding on to Zeke even though he betrayed him? In the next scene, we see Eren explaining his reason for wanting to become a scout. He wants to know what the outside world is like. and he doesn't want to live in ignorance inside the walls. This might be alluding to him wanting to discover the truth about the world, Titans, etc. And now we get to the cavern. Grisha begs the Reese family, Historia's bloodline, to kill all the Titans to protect his family and all the people inside the walls. Frida, the current founder at the time, says that Judgment Day has come for the subjects of Ymir. She also says that the founder's power should not fall into normal people's hands, or it will become hell in the hands of the weak. Essentially, she wants to destroy Eldia, while Grisha wants to save it. The Attack Titan's power is revealed. It can take a glimpse into the memories of its future inheritors. This is why the owl referred to Armin and Mikasa at the end of Season 3. Grisha says that this moment is where he ends the royal bloodline and eats the founding titan. But as he gets ready to turn, he loses his motivation to do it. At this point, Zeke gets confused as to why Grisha hesitates here, saying that the past can't change. Eren essentially influences his dad to complete his mission of killing the founder. He says it's for Dinah, Kruger, for Faye, his little sister. You keep moving forward even if you die, even after death. This quote is a hidden meaning on the Attack Titan transferring from host to host after death. Zeke has never seen this part of Grisha's memories. I even questioned if Eren was responsible for blocking this memory out of Zeke's mind. We also find out that Grisha is experiencing the cave event as Eren and himself. After he kills the founder, Grisha yells into the sky, yearning for answers to the future. He asks if Carla is still alive. He begins talking to himself in the middle of the field, telling Zeke that nothing will go his way and that Eren will get what he wants. This is Grisha seeing into the future. Then he sees Zeke, telling him to stop Eren. Okay, so very important takeaways here. When Eren is standing behind Grisha in the basement scene, it allows past Grisha to see the future through Eren's eyes. This is why he is able to see Zeke in his memory. In essence, Grisha is seeing everything through Eren's eyes only when Eren looks at both Zeke and Grisha at the same time. Okay, so I'll break it down a little more. When Eren stands behind them both, Eren is Grisha's eyes, and Grisha is able to see Zeke. And if you have this in the back of your mind, why isn't Eren seeing any future memories? Well, it's because he's the last Attack Titan. We get a recap of Grisha fighting the founder in the cave, but with the newfound realization that he couldn't use the founder's power. He knew he had to give it to Eren. Eren is only able to use the power now because Zeke brought him to the coordinate. Zeke commands Ymir to render the Eldians unable to reproduce. Eren then pulls himself out of his shackles, losing his fingers to chase after Ymir and stop her. Zeke narrates that once Ymir starts moving, she will not stop. We then see her origin story. Ymir's village is attacked and burned to the ground, and several people including her are taken to the first King Fritz. One of his mottos was, "You should live in a way to be helpful and loved by everybody." The survivors of the village are turned into the king's slaves, and eventually there's a dilemma that they come across. There was a pig that was released from its pen, and the king wants to know who did it. If no one comes forward, everyone loses an eye. 13 people point their fingers at Ymir, which is a symbol of the Titan's 13-year lifespan, and she is punished. She loses an eye and is chased by men on horseback with arrows. She then is cornered by a massive tree and decides to walk in, not knowing what's inside. She slips and falls into the water, and a parasite attaches to her spine. Then she turns into a Titan. Several years later, she is still a slave to the king, being used to protect and cultivate his village. For her deeds, he rewards her by impregnating her. She goes on to have 3 children, Rose, Maria, and Sheena. The 3 walls are named after these children. After the war, King Fritz holds a ceremony for the victory. But during the ceremony, one of his soldiers betrays him and throws a spear at him, but Ymir intercepts the spear with her body and ends up dying from her injuries. Her body is then chopped up and her children consume her spine, thus passing on Ymir's powers to them. In the afterlife, Ymir is sent to the paths as a child, where she would live the rest of her life in solitude, but she has the tree to keep her company. At first, the tree has 3 branches, symbolizing her children. and the branches multiply based on the number of children in the next generation that share her bloodline. While in the paths, Ymir builds Paradise from the ground up by herself, using the water and sand given to her by the environment. This world materializes in real life. She's the one that put the Titans in the walls. We then see Eren holding Ymir from behind, finally acknowledging her. You're not a slave. You're not a god. You're just a person. You don't have to bow to anyone. You can decide. It's your choice. You get to choose. He then mentions that she has been waiting for someone for 2,000 years to set her free. The spine of the founder reconnects to Eren's body, signifying the rumbling and the founder's true power. The walls in Paradise begin to collapse, unsheathing the titans within them, and Eren takes on a massive skeletal form. Armin, at first, is overjoyed to see that Eren's plan is happening, but is immediately confused as to why he freed so many colossal titans. Eren then summons everyone into the coordinate, telling them of his plan to protect the people of Paradise. And for this episode's title, I'm gonna give you the significance behind it. It all started with Ymir begging for someone to help her. 2,000 years later, we have Eren trying to save her and the rest of Paradise from genocide. Ymir has been used as a tool her whole life, until Eren talked to her and saved her. Reiner barely manages to save Gabi, but ends up severely injured due to his armor coming undone via the rumbling. Jean and the gang capture Falco and question Eren's motives. He ultimately wants to protect his friends in Paradise, but at what cost? Connie insists that he feeds Falco to his mom, but Armin suggests against it, saying it might create more conflict between the Titan shifters. The Titans now target the brave volunteers, but the scouts manage to save them. Gabi saves Kaya with the 360YY no-scope. In return, Gabi is protected by Kaya's family after scouts ask her if she's part of their group. Gabi's then humbled by this, and she learns that she shouldn't hate them. Armin and the other scouts kill the newly turned military police, including Pixis. Rip to the goat. Flock threatens to kill Onyankopon and Yelena. Gabi learns that Connie is taking Falco to his mom. Annie is back after her crystal is broken from the rumbling. Some of the survivors are split on whether or not to take Eren's side after the damage he's done to their homes and families. Annie manages to recover from the unhardening and hides in a room. She's eventually found by Hitch, who manages to take the upper hand in pinning her to the ground, but Annie is ready to turn into Titan form at any moment. After talking it out, Hitch decides to help Annie, and they take horseback outside the city. Annie also confesses that she heard all of the conversations between Armin and Hitch in the time that she was frozen. Hitch asks Annie about her mission as a warrior, and how it feels now that she sees the damage that Eren has done. Annie responds saying that saving the world didn't matter to her until she was saved by her current father. Her father had forced her to become a warrior for Marley, but before she left for Paradise, he apologized, saying that everything he taught Annie was wrong, and he wanted her to come back home. This caused Annie to start caring and acknowledging him as her father. She finally has someone to come home to. Marleyan residents that heard Eren's announcement to subjects of Ymir are begging to be let out of the internment zone. Annie's dad is shown at the forefront of this group, pleading to be released, but the soldiers don't budge. He plans to retaliate against them, but seems to be shot dead while doing so. But we're not sure if this really happens because we cut to another scene. Before Armin and Connie head over to Ragako village, Mikasa asks Armin what he'll do to stop Connie. He says that he's willing to do anything to save Falco, because he's the key to gaining the Titan Shifters' trust. Before they part ways, Armin tells Mikasa to help Jean. She still worries about Eren though, but that's the least of their worries right now. During all the stress, Armin says, "I know the answer now. I was the wrong person to bring back to life." Which is really sad, man. I feel for the guy. Flock kills a volunteer to show them that they have to fall under Eldian Empire and help them execute Eren's plan. Meanwhile, Falco tries to regain some of his memories while he's on horseback with Connie. Peak and General Magath run into Hanji and Levi. We find out Levi's alive. Let's go! Hanji manages to stitch and bandage him up, but questions what they should do next. She hears Eren's message in the coordinate, and Levi wakes up and wonders where Zeke is. Hanji, Levi, Peak, and General Magath decide to team up together to kill Zeke. Falco regains his memory and realizes that he's known Connie before he gained the Jaw Titan. Connie tries to trick Falco by saying they're going to brush his mom's teeth, but Gabby and Armin catch up to them and Connie holds Falco hostage over his mom. To counter this, Armin decides to jump into Connie's mom's mouth and ends up being saved by Connie. Ultimately, Falco is safe as well. While the last of the rumbling titans make their way past the city, the remaining citizens celebrate with a small-sized festival amidst all the rubble. There's pie and drinks, and Annie is revealed to Armin, Connie, Gabby, and Falco while stuffing her face with pie. I know, she's hungry. She decides to tag along with them, leaving Hitch in the dust. Jean was dragged against his will by Flock and the Jaegerists to shoot Yelena and Onyankopon for siding with Marley. He shoots 4 times into the ground, missing on purpose, so Peak could save Yelena, Onyankopon, and Jean. The warriors and scouts leave the city on horseback and carriage, signifying their partnership in taking down Eren, Zeke, and stopping the rumbling. After resting, Reiner is woken up by Annie, who is surprised at her return, and the group heads for Eren. We take a quick flashback to the night before, where Hanji and her group meet with the scouts and tell them of their plan. Hanji hates everything about genocide. She wants to stop it now before she is indirectly part of it. She also feels that she has the biggest brunt on her shoulder by being the commander. She doesn't want all the deaths of previous scouts to go in vain, so she wants to do what she can with all her power. Now we see the group of 13 sitting around a fire with tensions building. Again, this is symbolic of a Titan's 13-year lifespan. There's a discussion around why the scouts are siding with Marley. At first, it's only Jean and General Magath going back and forth about the true history of Titans and humanity. After this, Annie questions the scouts if they can kill Eren. Mikasa immediately counters, saying there are other ways to stop him, but at this point it's hard to say. The group will end up fighting each other in the end, according to Annie. The only reason Annie is fighting is to save her dad and Marley. We also learn about Yelena's past. She was born in Marley and eventually met Zeke. Once they met, she pretended to be from a country annexed by Marley. Because she was disappointed in her country, she made up a fairy tale about saving the world with her prince, lying constantly to carve her place into history. Yelena goes around the fire explaining everyone's killing history, starting with Reiner. Eventually, we learn the truth about Marco's death. Reiner ordered Annie to take Marco's ODM gear, so he's eaten by a Titan. This is all because he overheard a secret conversation between Reiner and Bertolt. Reiner's PTSD starts to kick in, saying that he wondered why Marco was being eaten by the Titan. This angers and annoys Jean, but Reiner says he's worthless and that he shouldn't be forgiven. Jean then beats up Reiner and kicks Gabby during his frustration. It's all for the suffering he had to deal with for not getting the closure. Gabby pleads with Jean, saying that initially they wanted to wipe out all the devils on Paradise, but now they want to stop the rumbling before all Marleyans are wiped out. The night ends, and in the morning everyone preps and heads for the port. At the port, Flock and the Jaegerists occupy the area, holding the Azumabito hostage. The main goal of the scouts at the port is to retrieve and use the flying boat to catch up to Eren and stop the rumbling. The group goes back and forth debating on what the plan should be to retake the boat and the port, but before they head over, General Magath demands Yelena to say where Eren is headed. She refuses and he breaks Yelena's arm. The general also apologizes to the scouts for justifying his actions against Eldia and failing to see that he was just as bad as Marleyans back then. He also tells the warriors that they shouldn't have to bear the world's hatred for the rest of their lives, but it's their duty to remember the past and teach it to the future's successors. He bows, asking the scouts for their help to end all the war. Armin says he is willing to shed blood to stop the fighting, and the plan to retake the port is now in motion. Armin and Connie try to coax the 2 Jaegerists at the port, Daz and Samwell, that they are joining their side in hopes that they can retrieve the boat. But this does not end up working well, so Armin is shot 3 times and Connie ends up killing the 2 at the port. Kiyomi and the Azumabito warn that the boat will take half a day to service it at the fastest, and the group needs to hurry before Eren flattens the rest of the world. The fighting ensues, with the 13 successfully saving Kiyomi and the others, and making it to the port after clutch plays from Annie, Reiner, and Falco being able to use the Jaw Titan for the first time. Keith Shaddis also arrives in the nick of time to blow up a train with Jaeger's reinforcements. In the end, General Magath and Keith Shaddis sacrifice themselves in order to blow up the Marleyan ship. While everyone makes it to the boat, Annie finds out about the General's plan and how it's more than likely that Liberia will be crushed by the rumbling. Because of this, she loses her will to continue fighting. In the final episode of this season, we open up with a Mikasa monologue, saying that everyone, including herself, thinks that Eren has changed. She doubts herself after saying this though. We are now taken to the past, where the Eldians are on a boat to Marley. They meet Onyankopon again, and he guides them to meet the Azumabito estate. They experience a lot of firsts on this trip, including seeing a car, eating ice cream, and seeing other Marleyans. Mikasa narrates now, asking herself when in the past Eren had changed in order to execute his plan to destroy Marley. We also see a kid thief that attempts to steal Sasha's money, but Levi catches him in the act. The native Marleyans threaten to kill the kid, but Levi and Sasha play it out in order to run away from the crowd. With Kiyomi, the group discusses peace between Marley and Eldia, and the potential fallout of their initial plan. Instead, they would have to go along with Zeke's plan of sacrificing Historia and her future children. During the meeting though, Eren runs off to find the kid thief. He cries as he discovers a village of tents. It's a place for people who lost their homes to war. Mikasa tails after him. He asks Mikasa why she cares about him so much, asking if it was because he saved her when they were kids or because he was family. She stumbles and blushes, but she answers, "Your family."
Fuck! This isn't what we wanted!
One of the men from the village walks up to them and offers them drinks, with the others shortly tailing behind them, and the group sits down with the villagers. They have a fun night, drinking alcohol for the first time. During the Emir Protection Group's meeting inside Marley, Eren walks out because he is described as an island devil. This was the last time Mikasa and the scouts saw him before he soloed all of Marley. Later on, we see Eren sending the letters to the scouts, with the letter saying he would entrust Zeke with everything. Now we join Eren's narration over the past events, asking where it all began. He says it doesn't matter, everything happened by his will, everything comes after this. We see his conversation with Yelena, saying that the only way to save Eldia in the world is to continue the euthanization plan, with Flock eavesdropping on the conversation as well. Eren tells Flock in private to go with the euthanization plan, and he also tells Historia what Yelena plans to do. Eren ultimately doesn't want Historia to be part of the plan. He wants to protect her and everyone else on the island. His true goal is to end the cycle of hatred and revenge by killing everyone outside Eldia. Historia insists on stopping Eren, but he says just wait until he erases her memory with the Founder's power. Now we get Zeke and Eren's conversation at the hospital. They discuss the Ackerman's power and how it awakens when their survival instinct is triggered. It's a reflex to protect their host. Eren specifically uses this idea to make Mikasa hate him earlier in the season, to create space between the two of them so Eren can carry out his plan by himself. Zeke doesn't believe the science behind this though, mentioning that Mikasa's devotion toward him has nothing to do with the forced behavior. Instead, he thinks it's because she likes Eren so much that she's willing to kill Titans for him. Eren was in the war that took place in the beginning of Season 4. He was in the trenches and cut off his leg before he disguised himself as a war veteran. He also punctured his eye with a bullet. Eren's ultimate goal is to have all his friends live and be happy. He is willing to carry all this out in order to achieve that goal. Hey guys, Oliver here. I wanted to give a huge shout out to everyone that made it to the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. I put a lot of time and effort into this one, so I'd really appreciate it if you left a like, comment, or considered subscribing. I'm not sure when I'm going to be uploading another one of these videos, but stay tuned on my social media for any future updates. I hope you guys have a good one. Take it easy, guys. Peace out. Much love.